Think about this for a second. Every single thing competing for your attention right now, your phone, the news, social media, advertisements, notifications, other people's opinions, none of it appeared by accident. Every single piece of it was engineered, designed, built specifically to pull you away from one thing, yourself. Because here is what nobody tells you. A person who is constantly distracted never asks dangerous questions. They never ask why they are unhappy. They never ask whether the life they are living is actually the life they chose. They never sit still long enough to realize that something is missing. And that is exactly the point. Buddhism has been warning about this for 2,500 years. The Buddha called it samsara, the endless cycle of chasing, consuming, reacting, and never arriving. And the machine that keeps that cycle running needs one thing above everything else: your attention, constantly, without interruption, without pause. The moment you go quiet, the moment you sit alone without filling the silence, something shifts. Your mind starts to clear, questions start to surface, awareness starts to return, and you begin to see the noise for exactly what it is: not life, not connection, not meaning, just noise, manufactured, delivered, designed to keep you moving so fast that you never once stop to ask where you are actually going. Your silence is not emptiness, it is resistance, and that terrifies a world built on your distraction. You are not antisocial, you are allergic to fake people. At some point, someone made you feel like something was wrong with you. You did not enjoy the party the way everyone else seemed to. You left the gathering feeling more drained than when you arrived. You sat in a conversation and felt completely, utterly alone despite being surrounded by people. And instead of questioning the environment, you questioned yourself. Stop doing that. Buddhism teaches that the clearest sign of a developing mind is the inability to pretend. The further you grow in awareness, the harder it becomes to perform, to laugh at things that are not funny, to agree with opinions you do not hold, to maintain relationships that exist purely out of habit or obligation with no real substance underneath. It does not mean you are cold. It means your tolerance for dishonesty, including social dishonesty, has dropped to zero. This is not antisocial behavior. This is integrity. Your mind has simply reached a point where it refuses to waste its energy on interactions that produce nothing real, where it cannot switch off its awareness and just go through the motions the way others seem to manage so effortlessly. The people who drain you are not bad people. They are just operating at a different frequency, and no amount of effort, patience, or self-criticism will make that frequency comfortable for you. You were not built for shallow. Stop apologizing for it. Loneliness is a prison. Solitude is a choice. Know the difference. Most people use these two words as if they mean the same thing. They do not. Confusing them is one of the most damaging mistakes an intelligent person can make about their own nature. Because as long as you believe that being alone means being lonely, you will keep running back into noise that costs you more than it gives. Loneliness is pain. It is the feeling of wanting connection and finding none. It is being in a room full of people and feeling invisible. It is reaching out and finding nothing there. Loneliness is something that happens to you. It is absence disguised as presence, and it is genuinely painful. Solitude is the opposite experience entirely. Solitude is the deliberate choice to be with yourself. Not because you have no one, but because you understand that the most important relationship you will ever have is the one you have with your own mind. And that relationship requires time, quiet, undivided attention. Buddhism teaches that a person who cannot sit comfortably in their own company has not yet met themselves. They have spent so much time performing for others, reacting to the world, managing appearances, that when the audience disappears, there is nothing there, just discomfort, just the unfamiliar weight of their own presence. Solitude fixes this, not immediately, not painlessly, but permanently. The person who learns to be genuinely at peace alone carries that peace everywhere, into every room, every relationship, every difficult moment, because their stability no longer depends on what is happening around them. That is not isolation, that is freedom. Now, Lesson 4 and Lesson 5, 2057. Orchestrated two philosophical lessons maintaining consistent narrative style. Orchestrated two philosophical lessons maintaining consistent narrative style. Lesson 4. You cannot find yourself in a room full of people who are also lost. Here is something nobody wants to say out loud. Most people you meet have no idea who they are. Not really. They know their job title. They know their social role. They know the version of themselves that other people have come to expect. But strip all of that away: the career, the reputation, the circle of friends, the carefully curated image, and underneath it is a person who has never once sat in genuine silence and asked the most important question available to a human being: who am I actually? And the dangerous part is this: when you spend too much time around people who are lost, you start borrowing their lostness. Their opinions become your opinions. Their priorities become your priorities. Their definition of a good life slowly replaces whatever definition you were starting to build for yourself, not through force, through proximity, through the quiet, constant pressure of belonging. Buddhism calls this the contamination of borrowed identity. You become a reflection of your environment rather than a product of your own awareness. And the longer it continues, the harder it becomes to hear your own voice underneath the noise of everyone else's. This is why intelligent people pull back, not because they are better than the people around them, but because they can feel themselves disappearing inside the crowd, and they choose themselves over belonging. Finding yourself requires leaving the noise behind. Every single time. Every original thought you have ever had was born in silence. Think back to the last genuinely original idea you had, the kind that stopped you, the kind that felt like something clicking into place that had never clicked before. Where were you? Almost certainly not in a meeting, not at a party, not mid-conversation. You were in the shower, on a walk alone, lying in bed in the dark, sitting somewhere quiet, with nothing demanding your attention. That is not a coincidence. That is biology meeting Buddhist truth. Buddhism teaches that the mind has two modes: the reactive mind and the aware mind. The reactive mind is what operates in social situations. It is fast, surface level, constantly scanning for cues, managing responses, performing competence. It is useful. But it cannot go deep. It is too busy surviving the moment to generate anything original. The aware mind only activates in stillness, in the absence of demand, when there is no one to respond to, no impression to manage, no conversation to keep alive. In that space, the mind stops reacting and starts creating. Connections form between ideas that were never consciously placed next to each other. Questions surface that could not have surfaced in a crowded room. Clarity arrives that no amount of discussion could have manufactured. Every philosopher who changed how humans think, every artist who created something that outlived them, every person who ever had a breakthrough that mattered, got there the same way. They got quiet. They stayed quiet. And they listened to what emerged. That is available to you right now. The only price is silence. The day you stop explaining yourself to everyone is the day you finally rest. Think about how much energy you have spent in your life trying to make people understand you, explaining why you need alone time, justifying why you did not want to come, defending your silence, softening your honesty so it does not make someone uncomfortable, shrinking your thinking so it fits inside a conversation that was never built to hold it. apologizing for being exactly who you are. Now think about how exhausting that has been. This is one of the most invisible forms of suffering an intelligent person carries. Not dramatic, not obvious, just a constant low-level drain that never fully stops. Because the moment you finish explaining yourself to one person, another appears who also does not understand. And somewhere along the way you started to believe that if you just found the right words, if you just explained it clearly enough, they would finally get it. They would finally see you, and then you could rest. Buddhism tells you something harder and more liberating than that. You are waiting for something that is never coming, not because people are cruel, but because understanding at that level cannot be demanded or explained into existence. It either exists between two people or it does not. And chasing it from people who do not have it to give is not connection. It is punishment you are inflicting on yourself. The Buddha taught upekkha, equanimity, a state of complete inner balance that does not depend on whether the world approves of you, understands you, or validates your choices. Not indifference, not coldness, but a deep, settled peace that belongs entirely to you and requires nothing from anyone else to remain intact. The moment you stop needing people to understand your solitude, your depth, your silence, your way of seeing something shifts in your entire body. The tightness releases. The constant low-level performance stops. You are no longer translating yourself into a language designed for people who were never going to read it anyway. You stop explaining. You start living. And the extraordinary thing that Buddhism promises and delivers is this. The moment you stop desperately seeking understanding from everyone, the right people find you effortlessly, because you are no longer performing a version of yourself designed to be understood. You are simply being yourself, fully, without apology. And that kind of presence, that kind of authenticity, is magnetic in a way that no amount of explanation ever was. You were never the problem. You were just looking for rest in the wrong places. The rest was always inside the silence you kept abandoning to go explain yourself to people who were never truly listening. You were never too much. The world was just too shallow. Every intelligent, deeply feeling, quietly intense person reaches a moment where someone looks at them and says, "You think too much. You feel too much. You are too serious, too deep, too intense, too difficult." And because that message came from enough people, often enough, early enough, you believed it. You started treating your depth like a defect, your sensitivity like a weakness, your need for silence like something to be ashamed of. This is the deepest wound Buddhism addresses, and it addresses it directly. You were never too much. You were too much for environments that were built for people who never question anything. You were too much for relationships that could only survive on the surface. You were too much for a world that confused noise with meaning, busyness with purpose, and performance with genuine human connection. That is not your failure. That is your nature colliding with a world that was too small to hold it. The Buddha spent years being told he was too much, too radical, too withdrawn, too obsessed with questions that made people uncomfortable. And he did not shrink. He went deeper. He went quieter. He sat alone under a tree while the entire world continued its noise around him. And what he found in that silence did not just change his life, it changed the entire trajectory of human consciousness. Your depth is not the problem. Your sensitivity is not the problem. Your need for solitude, for silence, for real conversation, for genuine meaning, none of it is the problem. The shallowness was never yours to fix. Buddhism's final gift to the person who has always felt too much is this. You do not need to become less. You do not need to be louder, lighter, easier, more available, more agreeable, more digestible. You need to find the silence that has been waiting for you. Sit in it. Stay in it. Let it show you who you actually are beneath every label someone else placed on you. Because the person who emerges from genuine solitude, clear, grounded, unshakable, entirely themselves, is not too much for the world. They are exactly what the world has always needed most. And it started the moment you stopped apologizing for being awake.